Welcome to this webinar. This is personal branding through LinkedIn. We're going to be going through a session today that's a little bit of a mix between how to create a personal brand, particularly through your online presence, but also really importantly, because most of us are in business, most of us are looking to forge a career in marketing or a career in business development, and looking to maybe open up our own business, become a little bit entrepreneurial, whatever the outcomes that you're looking to forge here. One of the really interesting things that we'll be exploring here is how you can use the personal brand that you'd like to shape up through a professional social network like LinkedIn. So it's a little bit of a balance between these two things as we go through this session. So hopefully what you'll do is get a few ideas and a little bit of thinking around how you might be able to build on a digital footprint that you might already have, or if you're starting this from scratch, begin to go on a little journey to increase your profile and to start the really interesting and insightful journey of communicating probably more effectively through online and digital platforms. So I'm not here to say that I have got this 100% right myself. I think anybody who would make that claim probably is missing the point of the fact that this is a journey, and it's very much a journey of sharing, hence sort of sharing this on the first slide. It's about sharing in two directions. I talk a lot when it comes to digital conversation, digital communication. I talk about the concept of conversation, and to me this is one of the really important things. It's about sharing content, information, advice, guidance, information, and a whole host of communication attributes in two directions, so that you're both communicating outwards, but you're also listening back. And this is really at the heart of effective personal branding. So what is a personal brand? Well, to me, it comes in four flavors, really, and these four flavors join together to give I guess, a view of who you are as an individual to the world. Okay, so your personal brand is your reputation. And in lots of ways, that is what it is. I think a lot of people, if they get caught up in this whole kind of celebrity influencer thing, this whole kind of YouTuber, Instagrammer, TikToker, you know, you're looking at individuals who kind of say, hey, I've got a personal brand, and it's all about their kind of style, if you like. It's all about their sort of presence and probably number of followers. And there's a lot of kind of vanity metrics, and there's a lot of kind of ego that comes into play. For me, a personal brand, particularly in a professional sense, is about what people are left with after they've engaged with you. So it's your reputation. It's that thing that, you know, you leave this kind of feeling, this tone of voice, this kind of experience, this kind of entity with somebody as a result of experiencing something you share or having a conversation with you. So your personal brand is your reputation. And once you establish something in here, and we'll talk about kind of how you do that in a little while, once you establish some kind of reputation, it is the thing that precedes you. So it is the thing that will, as soon as you start to enter into maybe a webinar, or you appear on a specific social network, or you enter some content into a forum, if you have a personal brand, if you have a reputation, people then know the kinds of values and the kinds of things that they're going to get from you as a result of you being there. So your reputation can precede you in a sense. So it's really important to think about the tone of voice, to think about the style, to think about the way that you communicate as much as what you're communicating. It's also very much about the value that you add to a particular situation, a particular social network, a particular community, a particular market sector. So one of the things that you need to think about, again, particularly if you're creating a professional personal brand, is think about the value that you're adding. So it isn't just all about you. Because what we're doing here is we're saying it's the you that's adding value to somewhere else and to somebody else. So think about the value that you bring. What is that value? What is it that you bring to the party? So it's a little bit about balancing what's in it for you with what's in it for them. And this, of course, is very important because it moves us away from thinking, hey, it's all about us. It's all about how we look on screen. It's all about our, the thumbnails of kind of, how people see us in social. It's all about the kind of the blogs and the vlogs and the podcasts that we create. Well, it is those things, but it's also about the value that those things bring. So it's kind of all the time thinking, what's in it for the other person? It's also about the service that you give. A lot of people, I think, believe that personal brands are kind of like a one-way ticket. It's all about one-way flow of information and content. But actually, it's about the service that you give. It's about helping people out. Particularly in something like LinkedIn, but also in some of the other social networks, increasingly more so. It's about the kinds of service, the kinds of help that you give to somebody who may well be asking a question, for example, or they may well be looking for a recommendation of something. Maybe they're looking for your and others' opinions to review something that they've seen and that they're considering. So one of the key things here is to think about, well, okay, what kind of service can I actually give and bring to a particular sector or a particular community, particularly if it's an online community. And often this helps us to establish very much the kind of thinking around, having almost like an ever presence, if you like, in a particular forum on a particular topic or on a particular subject. So think about the things that you can add in terms of giving service. And if you are a content creator, think about, well, what kind of content can I bring into the mix here? Can I give away a lot of the stuff that I do for free, potentially? If you listen to the likes of Gary Vee, for example, Gary Vee would say, in terms of the service that you give away the vast majority of your best stuff. Because if you do that, you'll get the kinds of engagement, you'll get the reputation, people will understand the value that you bring. And then you can just top it up with the paid for stuff on the top. And this is the kind of way to create a personal brand. It's not about, hey, I'm going to advertise myself and promote myself. It's about what's in it for the other person. And of course, that leads us seamlessly into the outcomes that you're creating. In other words, with your personal brand, are you creating a better world? Are you creating a better, more considered environment or community or social network or forum, or just the emphasis around a particular topic in which you've had a conversation? So what is it you're bringing? This is really at the core of a really effective personal brand. Now, of course, we've said that we're going to focus here on LinkedIn, and this is one from a professional perspective. This is one place that obviously a personal brand can really, really resonate in. So what is LinkedIn? Well, we all know of LinkedIn. Some of us are using it proactively. Others have got a bit of a CV online in there. From a personal branding perspective, though, it is your profile's natural home. So you might have a Facebook account, you might be on TikTok, on Snapchat, on WhatsApp, on Instagram, on YouTube, etc., etc., etc. But from a professional perspective, probably LinkedIn is one of your personal profile's natural homes, because it's where the business world communicates. Whether you like it or not, that is where your target audience is. That is where your colleagues are. That's where your peers are. That's where other stakeholders in and around your business are communicating. And it's not that they're just looking for jobs. It's not that they're just looking to recruit. It's not that they're just being nosy. This is where real opportunities for business growth and development are shared. It's where innovations are stimulated. It's where the best ideas are being created now and formed. It's where collaboration and co-creation of some of the best stuff on the planet right now is happening. It's a really high quality social network. I should hasten to add, I'm not sponsored by LinkedIn, and I don't have any vested interest in saying that. And I really need to include that at that point because it sounds a little bit like it. But it is the reality. So if you're thinking, well, do I need to set up my own website or my own YouTube channel? Do I need to be doing stuff on Instagram to create this personal brand? The answers could be yes, depending on who you're looking to target and to get engagement with. but from a professional perspective, I'd say probably LinkedIn is right up there in the top 2 or 3 social channels that you could be using for just those very reasons. So why do we need a digital footprint? Why do we need a personal brand? Why do we need to start taking LinkedIn seriously? And we'll look at some of the elements of the LinkedIn personal profile in just a moment, so we can see kind of where you can do this. But why? Why? Well, the big question is, why do we need to be taking this seriously? Well, in the future, this is what success will look like. Your personal brand, your personal footprint, your reputation online is the thing that will be the make or break single common denominator of whether or not you're going to be successful in the way that you define success. Okay, so this might be that you rise to the top of the tree on your career ladder. This might be that you're making more money than others. It might be that it's not about the money or the career development at all. It's about the change that you can stimulate. It might be that you just want to be influential because you want to do good for your community or for the planet in general, etc., etc., etc. The reason you need to take personal branding and, in brackets, through LinkedIn seriously is because you need a digital footprint. It's not about want anymore. 10 years ago, certainly when I started to create a brand online, it was because I wanted to. Today, it's because we need to. It's an opportunity to see and be seen. And this is really important. If you're not in the game, you're not in the game. It doesn't mean that you have to be spending every waking hour and every breath creating and fostering and fueling your personal brand, but you do need to have a digital footprint. Now, one of the reasons why is because what we're looking for here is to become a micro influencer. So when I talk about influence here, I'm not talking about the likes of Kanye West and Kim Kardashian and, these kind of celebrity influencers who are globally known. I mean, if that is your desire for your personal brand and your digital footprint, then great, good luck to you. It was nice to be associated with you. I'll say, oh, well, I knew such and such, in the future. But for most of us, what it's about is becoming a micro influencer. And that is basically somebody who has some level of influence in the community or the environment or the social network or just the area in which they're active. So the micro influence that we're talking about here is all about being kind of seen and relevant to the audience in which you're engaging, having some kind of influence at a micro level. But that, for all of us, may well be the most significant thing that we can do with a lot of the marketing communications activities that we do. And in lots of ways, another reason really behind needing a digital footprint is that it allows you to take ownership of your future. It's not about something that just kind of happens around you and it happens despite you. It's something that really happens because it's part of a coordinated set of activities and journeys that's taking you from where you are today into a successful future in however form and means that you define success. So it's a really interesting journey. And for me, one of the really key things about this is to think of your personal branding, in brackets, through LinkedIn, as a journey, because that's in essence really what it is. Now, for lots of people, they might be sort of listening to this or watching this thinking, well, okay, I kind of get it, I get the concept, but I don't really have a real clear view of what I'd want to be a micro influencer in, or kind of where I'm taking this. I'm new in my journey. I've only just really started out in business or in my sort of entrepreneurial life, and I don't really know kind of where I'm going. So it's always useful to have some kind of idea as to kind of really where you're aiming for. Now, one of the models that I like to use when it comes to personal branding, when it comes to kind of, the initial direction, if you like, in life, and really pointing to your definition of success is something called Ikigai. Now, if you haven't come across Ikigai before, it's a very, very interesting model that allows you to find your reason for being. That's the definition of Ikigai. Ikigai is a Japanese term. It's a very, very, very ancient model, developed and formed over sort of many, many centuries in Japan for finding this kind of sweet spot at the center of everything that you are and everything that you do. Now, I'm developing an Ikigai model, an Ikigai training and development program right now. So I'm only going to touch on the surface of this thing, but you can see from the framework of Ikigai that it can really help you to cut through a lot of the noise and many, many examples of opportunities that are presented to you if you're thinking about, well, what is my personal brand and what could it be? So if you look at Ikigai, it's based around 4 key questions. What is it that I love? What is it that I'm good at? What is it that the world needs? And what can I be rewarded for? And this is a very, very personal thing for you. It's not something I can answer for you. It's not something your partner, your parents, your friends, your colleagues can answer for you. This is very, very personal to you. There are individual Ikigais potentially for every single person on this planet. We're all made uniquely, but in sort of perfect harmony, if we can get a clear understanding of that sweet spot at the center. So if we start to think about, okay, if I'm looking to develop a personal brand, what is it that I love? Okay, we're not thinking about anything else at this point. This is a singular question. What is it I love in my life, in my world, in my working life and in my personal life? What are the things that I love? What also am I good at? And this is the stuff that I think just intuitively, innately, just personally, I'm good at. What am I good at? And at this point, what we're doing is we're kind of just making a very, very free flow, open series of kind of notes to answer these questions. Let's look at no boundaries here. Let's not just restrain ourselves and say, well, I'm good at this, but take out the but. Just put down things, and you can do this privately. You know, nobody else needs to know. So this is very, very personal to you. What am I good at? Also, what does the world need? Now, for me, this is a really interesting one right now, because this might open up your thinking to other things that you're good at, or to other things that actually, do you know, I love those things too. So what does the world need right now? Well, it probably needs simple things like harmony. The world needs things like sustainability. It needs honesty. It needs empathy. It needs authenticity. It needs etc., etc. There's a whole bunch of stuff that the world needs right now. But what does your world need right now? So the people and the communities and the businesses and the friendship circles and the communities around you, what does your world need right now? So it's not what you're going to give to that world. It's not what you love. It's not what you're good at. It's what does the world around you need right now? And also, what can you be rewarded for? What are the things that you do and behave and have to offer, either as service or as value that we talked about before? Because these are all part of your personal brand. What are those things that you can be rewarded for? And if you answer each of these 4 questions in isolation, and as I say, I'm going very, very quickly through Ikigai here to give you a flavor for the model. If you can answer each of those 4 questions in isolation, what you start to see is that some of those things start to overlap. So for example, things that you're good at and that you love, you could describe those things as your passion. If you love doing something, actually the world needs it, that could form a mission for you. If the world needs something and you can be rewarded for it, well, that could be your vocation. And if you're good at something and you can be rewarded for it, well, we typically would call that your profession. Now you could say, well, okay, well, isn't that just good enough? If I'm good at it and I can be rewarded for it, shouldn't I just do it? Well, the problem with not tying all of these 4 things together is that you often feel a feeling of there's a gap, or there's something that doesn't quite resonate with the opportunity and the potential of your personal brand. So if, for example, you're good at something, you love doing it, you can be rewarded for it, but the world doesn't actually need it, you fall into this little gap of being worthless or feeling like you don't really add value. If you're good at something, you love it, the world needs it, but you can't be rewarded for it, you're going to be happy but poor. If you love something, the world needs it, you can be rewarded for it, but actually you're not that good at it, you're going to feel quite uneasy and you're going to feel like you're going to get caught out. And if you are good at something and the world needs it and you can be rewarded for it, but you don't really love doing it, it's not really you, then you're going to feel quite empty. So there's always a gap or a challenge or a potential downside if you can't find the four things in this sweet spot. So what we're looking for is that sweet spot in the middle, that thing that resonates, that thing that is the core of you. It's your reason for being. It's what you love. The world's good. The world needs it. You're good at it and you can be rewarded for it. So this is a really nice, interesting model to find where your direction of your personal brand might head. Now, of course, this is right here today. If you were to do this 5 years ago, it could have looked and sounded or felt very different. If in 5 years' time you want to come back and revise and revisit this, again, it could look very different because the world's moved on. You might be able to be rewarded for different things. You might fall in love with something else. You might find actually you're very good at something else, even better than what you are at the moment. So this is a constantly morphing and changing and evolving thing. But to start your personal brand, this could be a very, very strong place to begin that journey, because what it'll identify is that sweet spot where you add the most value, where you can bring something really to bear that's really super powerful to the audience, to the community, and to the world around you. And of course, this is starting then to introduce this idea of balancing the shorter and the longer term. Because if you can find your Ikigai, you can then reverse engineer from that destination and you can start to figure out, okay, so what are the things I need to do today? What are the people I need around me? What are the social networks that I need to start communicating? What are the topics and themes and trends that I want to be associated with? What kinds of things, what kind of tone of voice and style does my personal brand have to be to help me on my journey to that destination? So you can kind of use that sweet spot Ikigai to kind of look backwards from that point of, almost perfection, if you like, back to where you are today and try and figure out those little missing pieces. So it's an exciting journey that you can enjoy, and it allows you to evolve organically and adapt and change both the destination, but also you as a person and the development as you go on this journey as you go. And one of the really interesting things about this, and we'll talk about this in a little while, is the fact it's the journey that is one of the interesting things that your audience wants to hear about. They don't want that polished, finished end destination. They don't want your Ikigai. So don't share the Ikigai with them. Share the journey that you're taking through your personal brand towards the Ikigai, because that's this humanistic element, that's this social element, that's the conversation piece that's at the core of your personal brand. So how can we then start to think about using something like LinkedIn to begin the journey of conveying and sharing and going on this kind of public version, if you like, of the journey towards this Ikigai? So I'm going to share with you mine. This is not just to give myself a bit of a showcase here. It's just because obviously I can log in and I can sort of share with you the background to the profile. So I'm just going to literally scroll down my personal profile page and show you how I've created a page which, whether you love it or you don't love it, whether you think it's relevant or not, this is kind of my latest take on how I'm moving towards my Ikigai using something like LinkedIn on my profile page. Okay, so the initial starting point of your profile page is to have the initial impact so that it really hits home the direction that you're taking. So for me, it's got an image of me, it's got a description of me and some of the stuff in this profile area that I'm quite active in, but also really importantly the choice of cover image. So if you've got Facebook or if you've got most of the other social networks, they talk about having a strong cover image. For me, I keep a real consistency of cover image, which is all based around the word mindful. So my cover image is a collection of words. It's a little bit of a word cloud around that topic. So there is no confusion. When you arrive here, there's no confusion what you're going to see. Okay, so it's about the clarity of that initial hook, if you like, in terms of your personal brand. Then what I would do is I would recommend you then start to back that up with the kind of things that you want people to be intrigued by and to kind of remember you for. So here I'm not putting in a job title. Here I'm starting to tell a little bit of a story in this kind of strapline below my name. I'm starting to begin to tell a little bit of a story about what you're going to see and what you're going to get. To me, putting a job title in here is just literally a tiny scratch on the tiniest of scratches on the surface of the story. That's not going to tell you about your personal brand. So you need to be a little bit more evocative, a little bit more engaging with the kinds of things that you include here. So it will probably come as no surprise here. I'm using the word mindful at least twice here. So I've got mindful marketing consultant. So again, a little bit of a differentiator here. It's about marketing, but in a mindful way. So for the good of the planet and for the good of the world and the community around us. And then I've got a load of other kind of words that kind of build a bit of a picture as to the kind of things that I'm up to. And then a few little things where there might be a little bit of intrigue as to, what does that mean? So the Mindful Living Show and Life Map by Nia. So just starting to build this little bit of intrigue, not giving everything away at this point, but starting to tell a little bit of a story in a way that builds a little bit of fascination, a few question marks, if you like. So job titles will not do that because they do what it says on the tin. So use this little area of your sort of strapline as your sort of job description, if you like, in a very, very basic sense, to start to entice people to read a little lower down your profile. So as we move down the profile, what you'll see is there is an about section. Now the about section is really, really important area for your personal brand on LinkedIn. The about section allows you to tell a story. Some people use this as a little bit more like a CV, but according to some of the research that we're starting to pick up both from LinkedIn and from people who commentate on LinkedIn, is that they're saying that storytelling in the about section, backed up with some key hashtags that you want to be associated with, is the best way to be found in search around the kind of personal brand that you're creating and the topics that you want to be associated with. So don't just include your CV in this about area, start to tell stories. So here I've started to tell a little bit of a story about my background, and I've backed this up at the end here with some hashtags that I'm very consistently using then at the end of a lot of the posts and the status updates that I do, particularly this one around hashtag mindful business. So it's about consistency. It's about understanding from your Ikigai, what is it that in the future you want to be associated with? So by doing that groundwork up front, your personal brand starts to become a lot clearer. The tone of voice starts to get refined, and it's almost like you don't then have to think about it too much because it's already there as a tone of voice and a style already there for you. So as we move down, and I'm just scrolling literally down the page here, as we move down, you'll notice that there's a new feature on your LinkedIn profile called Featured. And what this allows you to do is to put in a showcase link, if you like, to something that you want people to hook on. Now you can put multiple features in here. I would recommend probably doing one or two, because in marketing speak, these are your calls to action. Okay, it's one of the very early calls to action in your profile page. In other words, you're featuring something, and in my case here, I'm featuring my podcast. And I want people, as a result of engaging with me here for the first time, I want them to click on this link and go away and listen to my podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, because I want them to have that ongoing connection with the content that I'm creating from an audio perspective. And yes, I'm blogging, yes, I'm vlogging, yes, I do webinars, etc., but I'm giving them a clear single call to action here, because for me, this is where I want them to go for this ongoing engagement, so they stay connected, both within LinkedIn, but also through another channel, because for me that's a really important step in the journey that I want to take my connections through. So my personal branding goes then directly to this particular podcast, and you need to figure out what it is you'd like as a call to action for the people who come to your new personal brand profile page on LinkedIn. Where do you want them to go? Now, this could be you want them to go to your Instagram account, or you want to engage with them on Snapchat or TikTok, or you want them to come to your YouTube channel, or you've set up a website and you want them to come to that website. Whatever it is, this is a great way to showcase that point. And as you can see, it fits and sits directly inside of all of the other content. So a little bit further down the page, you're going to find that, you come into the experience section, and in the experience section, it is all about, the background that you have. And the nice thing that LinkedIn allows us to do now is it's more than just a CV where it's, you've got your job title and you've got your the time that you've been spending in that particular job. You can actually now start to add in some really interesting other content and other links. So this is kind of rich content now. It's almost, and this is one of the reasons why I say from a professional perspective, it's a great place to host the hub of your personal brand, is because this is almost now a fully featured website within LinkedIn. And of course, dead easy to find. That people who are finding you don't have to actually exit from LinkedIn to enjoy an experience. So even if you have, as I do, an external website that is all about my personal brand, this is still a great place to showcase some of those key things, making sure that there's other stuff within here that is really, really important that you want to share. And again, these are all little sub calls to action. So if for this particular sort of business, this might not-for-profit here, I want them to go and see the visualization. I want them to see the business model. So these would be the two key sub calls to action. Again, to build this profile of, oh, he's into mindfulness, oh, he's got this mindful collective not-for-profit, oh, etc., etc. So they go down this journey of understanding some of the more detailed deep dive elements of this personal brand. And I just want to go up one level here, just a little bit further back up the page here, because the one thing that I just briefly skipped over there was this thing that sits between featured and your experience, which is a summary of the activity that you're doing within LinkedIn. Because building your personal brand through something like LinkedIn is not a one-time activity. Okay, so what I'm not saying is you have to do this, constantly and consistently every day, but it is a commitment to setting something up that you are going to fuel over time. And the reason that it's important that you don't just leave it to gather dust, and that you do kind of come back and attend to it and really kind of enjoy the journey of working your personal brand up using it, is because your activities are automatically logged within this activity area. And this will be something that you can go and see from other people who are using LinkedIn in this way, but also people coming to you can see some of the stuff that you've engaged with most recently. So of course, this is a two-way thing. So people can look and see, well, what kinds of things has this person actually done recently? Well, he's shared something, he's done a reaction onto something, he's shared something about the economy in the Southwest. He's done a conversation here. This looks like some kind of vlog thing. What is purpose and why is it vital for your survival and growth? There's obviously some reactions here, so there's a bit of a conversation. It gives people a snapshot as to how active you are in here. So if you just stick with this as a CV online, then you're generally going to be missing out on a lot of the great things that are, potential opportunities for you. So the more active you can be in here, the better. And there is that real visibility of your activity within LinkedIn. So of course, what we're trying to do here is to focus on where it matters. Okay, so I've said as you've gone through the Ikigai process that actually the journey of getting to and shaping up Ikigai is actually your story. It isn't the end destination. So for me, even though I'm very clear, it's about mindful business and mindful living, and I'm constantly reinforcing that, for me, it's still about the journey of getting there. I do not know everything about mindful business. I don't know everything about mindful living. So I too am on that journey. And so what I find is that when I show any kind of vulnerability, when I show any sign of empathy, when I ask questions. Those are the times when the authenticity, when the honesty and the truth of my journey comes to the fore. So that's where focusing on those things and focusing on real engagement starts to create a real kind of leap forward in the journey that I'm conveying. So I know from personal experience, and a lot of other people talk about this, is that it's not about appearing squeaky clean, absolutely glossy, totally professional, and like you've got it all sorted. Anything that you can do to embrace people into your personal journey. And so your personal brand becomes, yes, helping them to solve their problems too, but it becomes a collaboration, it becomes a co-creation of something great and something good. Then that's when it really starts to resonate. And you find that a lot of people who are very actively creating personal brands, particularly in something like LinkedIn, and actually now, predominantly through YouTube as well, is you'll see that they're very, very active in engaging with the people who post comments and have an opinion on the stuff that they're promoting. So personal brand is about collaboration and co-creation. And it might be that the stuff that comes out of those collaborations and those ideas that form from just quick little conversations or a quick little message thread on your personal branded content, maybe those are the things that start to take you on a journey that you couldn't even think of today because it didn't exist until you had those conversations. So this is really, really exciting stuff. It gives you an opportunity to do things a little bit differently. It gives you an opportunity, obviously, to make some really great, interesting connections, but just get to a point, really, where if you can stimulate some reactions from others by being really, really clear with what you expect from them, if you can start to inspire, educate, inform, and or guide, if you can start to balance things so there's a little bit in it for you, a little bit in it for me, a little bit in it for some other people who might be new to that conversation, then what you're doing is you're starting to stimulate reasons why people should want to continue to follow, engage, like, and connect with you. So it's about being part of this community and part of this conversation. And of course, now, again and again and again, we're seeing some reasons that are just backing up that Ikigai story. Because if you can figure that little bit out, it cuts out all of the noise. It cuts out those questions of, yeah, but Neil, there's so many things I could do. And the answer is, yeah, of course there is. But if you do it from the starting point of that sweet spot, or you have that sweet spot, that Ikigai spot as your destination, you'll be amazed at how quickly all of the noise, all of the chaos starts to fall away at the side. And it helps people to remember the one thing that you want them to remember. If we think about personal branding, the most effective people who are into personal branding, so the ones who have very, very connected followings, not necessarily just the biggest followings, but the ones who are the most connected, it's because they give a clear call to action at every point. People know what they're associated with, what they stand for, what their voice is all about, but they also know at every single point of engagement what that person wants them to do next. So having a very, very clear call to action. What is the one thing you want that person to remember when they come to your LinkedIn profile, when they see that showcase, when they see the featured article, when they read your about, when they go to that part of your experience on your CV on there, when they read that update, when they see the comment on the thread that you've just commented on? What is the one thing you want them to remember? And if you always have that as the filter on your shoulder, that little voice in your ear that says, what's the call to action? What's the call to action? Then you're always providing that clarity for the audience. If you just go into this launching full steam ahead into this, just adding to the noise of social media, you're going to find that you're going to find chaos, but you're also going to find that you'll probably run out of momentum very quickly. So to get really, really high quality engagement and conversation, it is about this consistent tone of voice. You've also got to decide really where your boundaries are around this. I mean, we talked about splitting out the chaos and stuff. What does your personal brands stand for? What is it about your personal brand that, you know, allows that clarity, but also decides and is very clear about the things you're not going to talk about? At the moment, obviously, there are some very, very heated conversations going in terms of the things like obviously some of the racism that's happening around now. There's obviously a lot of stuff about gender and equality. Obviously we have the COVID-19 stuff still continuing. We've got the upcoming return of things like Brexit and the environmental crisis. What are your positions on those very contentious things? Do you want to have those as part of your personal brand? Do you want to avoid them completely? You know, what kinds of things do you find are the things that you want to have as your ring fence that you're not going to touch? It's about being very clear to yourself on that. It's a really, really important thing. So taking all of this forward is kind of, what are your next steps? Where do you start? Well, my starting point I would recommend is to go back and revisit that Ikigai model. You can just do a quick little Google search and find Ikigai in there. It's a really sort of simple little model to look at. And as I said, I'm building a program for taking people through that. So watch this space for that one. Think about, why should others engage with you? Now, what is that value add? What is the service that you're bringing? What is it that you're looking to provide and offer as huge value for the others? Where will you be a micro influencer? Figuring out that, you know, even if you're not looking to dominate the world with your personal branding, think about the communities or the places where it would resonate, where you could really make a difference, where you do have, you know, something to add with your Ikigai. Showcase through your LinkedIn profile. Think of it as a showcase. It's just the starting platform. It's not the end game. And begin some conversations. And as you do those conversations, think about watching, looking, listening, and improving, because it's a really important thing to think about this as being something that is an ongoing process. It's not something you're going to do one time and then it's done. It's very much about something that is an ongoing thing that you're going to be living and breathing as you go forward.